Hello, everyone. Welcome to Osquery office hours. Here we are in June. Hopefully, it's a good month for people. Uh, so, starting off, announcements or highlights. I guess we cut 530 since last time, so that's kind of nice. I haven't done anything to test it though, so um, next section here is kind of a bit of an open section. Well, I guess anyone else have announcements?
It's a little bit early, but we're planning to in the third or fourth quarter work on Windows for ARM support.
Nice.
And I might be giving a quick talk on like a 15-20 minute one.
You dropped out there. Okay, next section is whether sort of an open section for any issues or questions community members have. If you're new, it's a great time to say hi or ask anything. I guess as a side note, Charvel says he's giving a talk on endpoint security and Osquery at Mac DevOps. Yay.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So any things community folks want to bring in? Chris, welcome. I don't think I recognize you, but nice to see another face here.
Hi, thanks. Yeah, I'm a new sales engineer at Trailbits, just getting kind of up to speed on all the things. I've used Osquery in the past with Seek and some other things, so just curious
Welcome
what you guys
aboard.
do here. Yeah, thanks. It's pretty awesome. Thanks for building an awesome tool.
A lot of people contributed to this one. Okay, no open community questions. We can maybe jump into agenda items.
I have a question. I see Stefano's wearing the QueryCon shirt, like Trailer Bits. Is it happening anytime again?
It was, to be fair, it was just a random choice today. It was on the top of my t-shirt pile, and so why not? But yeah.
So no plans, man. Let's do it. Come on.
I'm not aware of any plans right now. Okay, moving into agenda items. Reordering them slightly, there was a question about whether 530 is stable. I haven't tested this. I did see Stefano doing some stuff around the Windows group stuff. Is it stable as is, or do we need to get a point release out?
So no, I don't think so. That's an issue specific to the tests. Some of the tests that were indirectly using the users and group cache were not initializing the services and structures needed for them. Forgot to do them. So.
Okay, but that's test only. That's not
yeah.
It's not a production issue.
Yeah.
Anyone tested it?
I mean,
no one's tested it. I don't think we can call it stable yet. Okay, a couple of machines from Charvel, thank you.
Are there binaries available for 530?
Should be in GitHub.
Okay. I can push those to our Edge channel, but as I've said before, there's like that means like we run a couple of automated tests and like we might have a few hosts are running that, but it's not a substantial test.
It's better than none. I'll try and get it out to Collide's beta channel as well. Similarly, not a very big deployment, but it's better than none. So I think we probably can't declare it stable today. And it sounds like Zach and I will try and get it out to our respective edge and beta channels. Okay. Any other 5.3.0 or release items? Okay. There's a suggestion here about adding Watcher to disk.io things, which I assume is from Daniel. So
Yeah.
take it away.
Yeah, I'm running a lot of tests about on the Windows event, and I think I'm using the Watcher to control that, to measure that impact on the machine resources, and I think we completely forgot about the impact on the disk. I mean, we're writing a lot of data into the RocksDB, so maybe we are performing a lot of operations on disk, and this will surely affect the machine's performance. It's an idea. I didn't explore it, and I don't have any real information about that. I just bringing the question because I don't know if you guys are aware of that. So I just want to make sure.
There's a pull request from package 0. This happened a couple of years ago, maybe. He was implementing a different database to hold the data. One that, like, the point of using RocksDB is the journaling and the data integrity that it supports. And so I don't think looking at the IO operations is useful if the concern is with integrity. If we want performance instead, then I think it would be interesting to introduce something like packet 0's pull request. So a different backend, database backend that you can use if you are not concerned with integrity.
Okay.
And this,
Maybe.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, maybe adding to this, another issue is that just adding performance metrics for or tracking the disk.io alone is not enough, because RocksDB is mainly used by events, and having the watchdog kill Osquery doesn't change anything. There is nothing to deny list, basically. And so, yeah, it's something that Osquery, I think, needs, but it needs also a system of throttling, somehow reacting to high disk.io usage or CPU usage, etc. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was saying that it's kind of having RocksDB with data integrity kind of defeats the purpose of having the watchdog kill the instance if we are exceeding this maximum amount of IO operations per second. And we talked about RocksDB several times already, and we already relaxed some of the integrity settings that we were using before. And I'm wondering if it makes sense to really push for a different backend at this point. It seems like users don't care about this data integrity, right? Because it is so slow. And
Well, I don't know the answer to that. So there's a couple of things I want to call out. One is I don't know if users don't care about data integrity versus users haven't been asked to make that trade-off. And then kind of another thing that I don't have a good handle on is whether there is a performance issue or whether we're sort of way out in the like, performance is great until you try and run 1,000 RPS through it, right? Like, so are we in the like, is this a realistic problem, or are people actually like pushing things really hard?
I know there was an issue from a Windows user. Teddy was looking into it. That was back when we increased the integrity guarantees from RocksDB, and they had really severe performance issues. And
Haven't you redone a bunch of the performance stuff on RocksDB since then? You like changed the way the indexing works?
yes, so we changed a couple of things in there, but we also had a flag. And there's an option that you can pass when writing and or opening a RocksDB database, and we tried to raise the integrity options back then, but due to performance issues, we ended up changing them again, making them less strict. And so right now we are kind of in a weird situation where the data integrity is somewhat better than using RocksDB without any kind of setting, but it's not in a place where you could feel safe in just killing Osquery repeatedly, because you're going to break for example, the buffered log lines or parts of the event data. And so, yeah, we have some of those settings enabled in some cases for the eventing framework. When you write the events to disk, there's actually a switch somewhere in there that will, based on this, on the Hive, I think it was called a Hive, I forgot the RocksDB terms, but when you end up writing this, let's say, schema space that starts with events, and it will relax some of these settings. But I think some things are still enabled. So you will still write to the SSD files, for example, that will then have to be merged into the main database file. And we can already see the effects of having this, the watchdog killing Osquery while write is happening. We had that problem that Stefan fixed where Osquery would try and compact the database files using CPU, and then watchdog would get mad at the worker and create again, getting stuck in a loop, trying to fix the database. And I think that the watchdog itself doesn't work as an idea with data integrity and RocksDB. And I would rather increase, again, the integrity settings of RocksDB at the highest possible value, and then include an additional backend that has no integrity in case you have a really nice battery-backed hard disk, or whether you just don't care about integrity and even performances.
Okay, I will address you on that. Thank you. Thank you a lot.
It's one thing I wonder, and I don't know enough about Daniel's use case or even what metrics we have. Is it do we expose metrics here, either around like number of events created or on query, like as part of the query metrics that could help? Like if Daniel says, oh, well, what am I doing that's causing all of this disk IO? Does he have a way to answer that? So even if it doesn't automatically go through a denial list, can he?
I haven't done the original debugging session, but I remember that the users were using some Windows-specific tools to look at the disk usage. And yeah, there is some data you can get, like the number of events, but they don't necessarily map directly to the disk usage, because that could also be just maybe event log. I'm sorry, log lines that get buffered, and so you're hammering the disk.
Even if there's a layer of sort of abstraction that makes it all muddy, I think that if someone's premise was that events were causing a lot of disk IO. Do they have a way of understanding what's triggering that?
You can, I mean, you can get from the Osquery events table, you can get at least the number of events that have been generated by the publisher. So that's answers a part of your question.
And then is there an easy way to sort of correlate that back with queries, or do you have to basically have a pretty extensive knowledge of what your own deployment looks like?
Not really. Like the Osquery events table shows you the events as they are, or well, let me think. No, actually, shows you the events when they are collected. So on the publisher side and on the subscriber side too. But that's not related to how often you are querying the evented table or anything.
It also depends on the size of each event, which with some publishers, it's rather heavy with some publishers. But I think the idea is great, and the idea that Daniel had is, I think it is great. It is something that we should look into and at least provide some information to the user.
Yeah, at least if one is not concerned about RocksDB, there are still normal queries that can cause some disk access, and they could be denied listed due to that. But yeah, although with the usual again issues that events, if you are doing a scheduled query and you have events enabled, events will affect what you are detecting when the watchdog is looking at CPU memory or disk IO, and also distributed queries. So yeah.
Okay, so in terms of visible metrics, a little bit dicey because there's a lot of, you have to understand the Windows disk IO or whatever your OS disk IO is. You have to understand the correlation with the events system. And you have to understand the correlation between events and your scheduled queries, let alone all of your other things that might be doing it, like, you know, like crawling your file system and hashing it all, for example.
And something related to that, does it have sense if we, I don't know, provide a table for the user to get the what the watcher is measuring? I mean, the watcher knows how much memory is Osquery getting and how much CPU is consuming. You think it would be useful for some user? I mean, not for the standard user.
I would say there is already the processes table and a small plug. With a recent pull request I've opened, I've also added CPU usage calculation, and you can also specifically filter for the Osquery worker. So you only calculate the CPU usage continuously for only the Osquery worker, so it's not heavy if you have many processes you're not interested to. So you can keep track of memory in the instant, CPU usage, CPU time, so another instant value. There's no disk IO.
This also may be very similar to the scheduled queries table. Like depending on sort of, but depending on what you were looking for, right? If you were trying to understand which of your queries might be contributing to more CPU or memory load, look at the scheduled queries table. Those numbers are all somewhat imperfect, but
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Next item, Stefano, foreign tables concept.
Yeah, so this is something I stumbled on multiple times. So the goal is simply, well, deprecate and then remove foreign table logic. So what it means, in Osquery, we have the concept of native tables and foreign tables. So native tables are all the tables which actually have an implementation on the specific platform you're on. So I don't know, Linux specific table, if you query it, it will return results because it has an implementation that's native. Then you have foreign tables, and what we do is basically we still, when we enable that feature via Flex, we still provide the table, which is not Linux specific, maybe it's Windows something, and it's just an empty table. It's just a table that provides the schema, the definition, and you can query it, but it will always return empty. So a couple of things about this. Currently, this system is broken, meaning that only the very first, well, currently, since quite a lot of time, I think since we did the conversion from back to CMake, only the very first foreign table in the list of other platforms table gets created like that, and not the rest. And there are some details, technical details described in the issue where it gives, so how we have implemented it gives issues in the tests, because you're forced to link all the implementation of all the tables, causing those tests to be bloated and be giant, basically. So it slows down the completion, the linking, and fill up your disk. So again, since I haven't seen anyone really complaining about this feature, I was wondering, is this something we really want to keep, or can we drop it? And finally, there's also an alternative, obviously, a suggestion. I don't want to force necessarily this choice, but we can fix that specific issue. And again, technical details, we can provide something that permits to detach the tests from the need of linking all those tables. Is less, yeah, I would prefer dropping them, let's say. Do you know anyone with that specific interest of keeping foreign tables? Or
Zach, do you know why they were made?
I'm not even sure I know what foreign tables are in Osquery.
My guess, Stefano, my guess is, so Collide does not use these. I suspect that they were written for one of two reasons, and this is a little bit of a guess. One of them is to make it easier to ship queries that are cross-platform, because we run into all kinds of weird, right? If you ship a query that's for a table that doesn't exist, you get horrific errors. So foreign tables would let you ship a query that involved joins against something. And the other one would be if you wanted to do some kind of query checking against things cross-platform. But I feel like foreign tables have an interesting question here of how does this work for the extended schemas? Like if you extend a schema based on a platform, you're not going to get that from a foreign table, right?
True.
So
I haven't checked that, but yeah, makes sense.
How could you?
They would be weird. Yeah, they would not represent the actual table on the platform, the correct platform.
I kind of want to, I wish I knew if anyone was using them and what for, and that would maybe help guide us on what to do. And Charvel
Yeah.
says in chat that the motivation here may be some Facebook internal use case.
Sharva, what's the date on that commit you're looking at?
Yeah, although I wonder, like, this is I don't understand, because there is also flag to enable them back, but you're not only enabling at runtime. The schema, there's no logic for it. So, or at least, yeah, I'm not sure if they were thinking of also adding foreign tables that are native actually to the system, so that you can disable them at compile time. Yeah. But I mean, the strongest thing I say is that, again, it has been broken since like we moved from back to CMake. So I haven't seen at least anyone complaining any issues. So that kind of tells me that no one is using it.
I feel
It sounds like you're saying it's been broken for multiple years now then?
Yeah,
I mean,
around 2019.
yeah, I mean, let's remove that in my opinion for sure. That definitely sounds like no one's using it.
I feel like we should remove it, and if we come up with a use case, we should think about how to do it more cleanly. And as mentioned, like I could absolutely see use cases around, wanting to ship a query everywhere that doesn't throw errors. Maybe there's a way to do that that doesn't require like cross-linking everything, and I don't know. But I'm kind of also content to sort of say, I don't know, let's see who shows up. Let's see what complaints we get.
But don't we have platform checks on queries, like you would expect queries that which tables are available on each platform, sort of?
Well, but in
Or-
SQL, well, it's like, so at Collide, we generate configs for every device. We have device-specific configurations, right? And we have a fair amount of nonsense server side to generate all of that. But it lets us do a lot of things, like say, this set of tables is on this client, so we can ship it there. If you imagine a world where tables didn't throw errors if they were in SQL queries, we might just have one giant config baked and send it all over the place, right? But the thing is if you have a table that doesn't exist locally in a join or in a query, the whole query will throw errors. So you can
The thing that would be really nice, I mean, I definitely see the motivation for wanting to be able to handle tables that don't exist, but to Stefano's point, we do have the platform key. So if it's a platform issue, you should be able to just say, this query only runs on the platforms where the tables exist. I'd be more interested in doing this for like if there are extension tables that may or may not exist. And I'm doing perhaps a union or a join. I want to pretend like that table actually just returns an empty set or something like that.
Yeah.
And then maybe if there's different OS query versions, although let's see, with different OS query versions, you can also handle that in the schedule.
Well,
So
the discovery
Yes.
queries may not be enough, because if you wanted to say, oh, it's a good example, right? Only run this if this application is installed locally, then your discovery query would need to be both is Mac and has application installed, right? So you couldn't do that in the discovery query without this. All this said, like this isn't a real use case. I'm sort of spitballing, so I think I am in favor of removing it and thinking about, well, this is a cool idea. What would it look like to actually make it work?
I would love it if there were some flag or way to make it so that any table that you reference that didn't exist would actually just have whatever columns that you pretended were there, but return no rows or something. I've trawled through the SQLite source a little bit to see if it would be possible to do this kind of thing, and I've not made any traction on that.
You mean tables that are defined at runtime on the fly, like through configuration, or something that, again, looks like these foreign tables? Because foreign tables are created from the table spec. So another thing, there's no extension support for this in the logic we have.
Yeah, no, I what I'm thinking is more like if I'd as a user of Osquery, I'd like to be able to write a query that references any tables that may or may not exist, and it will just treat any tables that don't exist as though they are real tables that return no rows.
Interesting. That's
I
a
think
sort of
should be
form of
possible.
it's a form of Postal's law, in a way, right? Be forgiving in what you accept, which I find actually very mixed, because like if you're writing SQL, sometimes you want that error so that you don't, like, oh, I typoed that table name. No wonder my data is all missing.
Totally. Yeah, I mean it's a weird thing.
Yeah, but I mean, the direction of what if this was baked into the config, where in the configuration file you enumerated the tables you want to ensure exist, and like, does our registry, you can only have one table name registered at a time, so you'd almost want to have like precedence in the registry, so that if Osquery booted and created like a default food table, and then an extension came in and registered a real food table, like how would that work? So there's development work there.
I don't recall exactly how they are called, but there are like not sessions, but that like internal databases where you separate, you attach the table not to the main one, but you can attach it to another one that you can then refer also. So that you can have two tables named the same, but they are in a different context. And yeah, my only one concern there is that this is similar to something I saw today about the user and groups issue. While on production we may want to hide certain errors in tests, we still want to be able to enable them and see them, because they should trickle down to the test and make the test fail. So yeah, maybe to consider also that, because maybe it a table not being present, it's really an error. So yeah.
Well, sounds like we're all tentatively in favor of removing them because they don't work. Next agenda item looks like a general plea for code review. So before we go in that direction, do people have anything else they want to talk about? I'll mention that WWDC announced some changes to endpoint security, and I have not figured out what they are yet, but they're out there. Maybe.
Oh, really?
Really?
Well, like,
Possible that
Charvel-
video isn't posted yet.
Charvel posted some stuff about this.
do new events.
Oh yeah, here he's dropped in the chat. So there's a bunch
New
of
event
new
types.
notifications that you can get through endpoint security that seem to do with user sessions.
XP malware.
That's Xprotect and MRT. Yeah. So when MRT acts on it.
Those are, there's some interesting looking events there. Be interesting to think about evented tables. At a
Oh.
past job, I definitely would have wanted that OpenSSH login and logout data.
Yeah, and the login logout ones are also needed for some compliances. So I think it would be kind of nice to have those. Been thinking about that.
I think
there,
our X protect table is basically broken because it relied on a file being written to disk, and they haven't written a file to disk in about 4 years. They used to. Now they just ship it directly out to Apple. So,
yeah, it just made a TCP connection, and yeah, that's true. It's
yeah,
broken.
this would be a good way to restore whatever that use case was to Osquery.
That'd be pretty cool. I don't know if anyone's excited to write an evented table around this. I think there's maybe one person in this room who does that, but
There was also the video and the documentation isn't out, but Apple's releasing a sample command line tool to kind of explore endpoint security. I hope they don't remove the app bundle packaging because a lot of work went into that. But the text from the description might suggest they might roll that back. I don't know. We'll see in the next year or two.
roll which back?
The requirement of a .app bundle for a command line daemon that does endpoint security calls.
I suspect they won't. It may depend on what you're doing, because like that's baked around the provisioning profiles.
Yeah,
Yeah, the whole
exactly.
code signature thing is based on that.
Yeah.
I wonder if they'll just give some sort of exception to their own command line app or
Yeah.
something.
So they're releasing a tool.
Wouldn't be the first time they've done that.
Apple's releasing their own. Yeah, sorry. Apple's releasing their own command line tool to kind of explore, like, what folks can do with it. So yeah, maybe they have a private entitlement that kind of bypasses those checks.
So there are several places where Apple ships private entitlements onto their Mach-O binaries that bypass some of the permissions checks, like certainly location checks that bypassed by Apple Mach-O binaries. It would not surprise me if they shipped one here, although some of them may actually land in like a .app somewhere, some .app framework somewhere that then have like a complicated shelling out path. Like, have you dug into how the system profiler works?
Haven't had the time to reverse that.
So system profiler is a lightweight wrapper that spawns other things and then talks to
Python?
them over RPC
Python, right?
things.
Okay.
I don't know if it's Python or C, but it spawns other things that have actual permissions and then has like some RPC interface to them. So if Apple ships a tool to explore endpoint security things and doesn't just bypass their auth frameworks, they'll probably follow the same kind of model. Yeah, that looks cool. Thanks for the summary.
There's also some changes to notarization.
So I saw a note about that, but I didn't look like the video was posted this morning yet. All it really told me was that there's a new tool, and we know about the new tool. I forget if we're using it yet or not.
I think we might be using the old one, but it works exactly the same, and it's binary compatible. Yeah,
that's it. Yeah.
But there's an API, new API, where you can query notarization status, and it doesn't have to be a Mac machine. It can be any. It's a HTTP REST API.
There's also a Java transporter for this that Apple ships. So the Apple Notary servers, right? When I interact with them, I use AL tool or Notary tool now, which is probably what you use. Apple ships a Java transporter to talk to them as well, which I haven't looked at, but there is a Rust implementation of Apple code signing that uses it. There's also a Go one that doesn't do the notarization, but does handle code signing. I don't know if you found either of those tools out there yet.
There's the so I've used Gone, but
wrapper.
that's macOS only. I have been looking at the Rust one that you're talking about, Seth, and been thinking about trying to build a Docker container that contains that binary and also the transporter binary, or whatever you call it when it's Java. But I'm definitely curious to see what this new API will look like, if it's something that could make these things better.
Do you?
Charvel, I'll link the Rust one. I have it started on GitHub.
It's part of some other project.
It's part of a Python packaging project.
Yeah,
that's
that's
written
the
in
one.
Rust.
The Go one is called Relic, RELIC, from SSMon. There it is. Okay. If you are interested in the Go one, it's that. So I don't know if that's exciting to you as well, Zach, but
Yeah,
there
definitely.
it is.
Definitely. I'm definitely interested.
And like Groob
Thank you.
once made a version of them too. And I don't remember if Groob's ever got anywhere. I keep a list of them around. Launcher just uses the Mac tooling, but I try and at least pay attention to what the other choices are.
Oh, cool. So it looks like this Go thing has an implementation of ZAR, which is used within the packaging format, right? PKG format.
Mm-hmm. PKG is
Cool.
a ZAR.
Yeah. And let's see, we use there's a C implementation in bomb utils that we put into a Docker container, and that if I remember, that allows us to make Mac OS packages on other platforms, but then you still have the notarization problem. So but that's cool. Thanks for sharing this. I'll definitely look into that, and I'll put the link to that Rust project in the chat here in a moment.
I hadn't seen XC Notary yet, so I'll look at that one and add it to my personal notes as well. And I guess for the crowd, I don't think the Osquery project is likely to change what the Osquery project is doing. Namely, we use GitHub to build packages on macOS. But this is always very interesting that people like Fleet and Collide, who build a lot of packages, sometimes via automated systems. So, yeah. A note in our minutes here.
So it's Pi Oxidizer. I just dropped it in there, and there's a sub
that's it.
package Apple code sign.
He's got some good blog posts too.
Yeah, this Indie Greg person seems pretty awesome.
Relic is pretty good too, but the Pi Oxidizer guy's got better social presence. Okay. Anyone have anything else they want to say about WWDC? If not, code reviews. So I see pleas from endpoint security-based FIM, macOS password policy, the unified access logging, kernel panics table. These all would be really cool to get in Osquery, so we should try and review them.
I'll take a look at the kernel panics one. Didn't get around to it. I just noticed that you have uploaded a file, so I'll put that out.
Thank you.
And if someone can review the FIM one, that would be super cool. If there are any changes or feedback, I'll address them super quick. So And the passive policy one is straightforward. Simple new table, just calls Open Directory API and mimics the PW policy tool by Apple.
Okay. Any other items people would like to bring up, talk about, share?
I don't know, maybe just to mention, you may notice that a user has opened new tree request about updating libarchive, SQLite tree, and OpenSSL due to CVEs found in them. So we have briefly checked the OpenSSL one. We are not affected because it touches a script that's used for the shell. So we are not using the OpenSSL shell. So yeah, we are not affected by it. For SQLite 3, the user reported a couple of CVs. One was actually unrelated, and was another project. And the one that is related to us is this memory leak, which again they say memory leak, but it's memory that you are able to read and you shouldn't be able to. That happens when you are passing specifically malformed or prepared database file. So we might be definitely impacted by ATC or via ATC if we are trying to open a SQLite database via. And so, yeah, that one specific one I've added to the milestone 454. So I think it's better to get it fixed. And the libarchive one is related to an uncompressed function. We still have to double check to be 100% sure, but we are 99% sure that we are only using libarchive for the carver and for compressing. So in theory, we should not be affected. And yeah, I just want to double check a final thing, but I originally put that the milestone on that too. I probably would remove it, or yeah. I think between all those, libarchive may be the one that takes a little more to update. SQLite and OpenSSL are pretty easy. Libarchive is the one that would need to regenerate the configuration on all the platforms. So yeah.
Thank you for doing that legwork. Okay. If that's today, then I say we end it and people can enjoy their 10 minutes.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Nice
you.
to see people.
Okay, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.